Huckleberry Finn, Chapter 9. The House of Death Floats By. The time is right after the last chapter. Huck and Jim are on Jackson Island in the middle of the river. They are exploring the island and find a cavern along one of the cliffs.
Hey, look! A cavern!
Jim and Huck proceed to take their belongings from the canoe to the cavern. They hide the canoe and then set up the cave to look like home. They cooked their dinner inside the cavern as the sky began to darken. Jim predicts that because all the little birds were flying away, it was going to rain. Then it began to storm.
Would you look at that? Just as you predicted.
The storm thrashed the trees, while the sky was a blue-black color. The trees in the distance looked like spiderwebs. Huck and Jim just sat and watched as the storm raged.
Jim, this is nice. I wouldn't want to be nowhere else but here. After that hunk of fish and some cornbread.
You wouldn't have been here if it wouldn't have been for the gym. You would have been down in the woods, starving and most likely have been drowned. Chickens knows when it's going to rain. So do the birds too, child.
The river kept raising for 10 or 12 days. The island had flooded over 3 feet. Once it stopped raining, the boys got in their canoe and would explore the island. They explored the island during the day and only went out on the river at night for fear of someone seeing them. One night, a section of the lumber raft floated by, and they picked it up.
Okay, there it goes.
Another night, a 2-story house floated past while they were out exploring. They wanted to explore the house, but it was too dark. They canoed into the house and waited until daylight to explore it. Once it was light out again, they started to explore the house. In one room, they found what looked like a man laying on the floor.
Hello, you.
Hey, you! Get up!
The man ain't asleep. He's dead. You hold still. I'll go and see. It's a dead man, yes indeed. Naked too. He's been shot in the back. I reckon he's been dead 2 or 3 days. Come in, Huck, but don't look at his face. It's too ghastly.
This relates back to the name of the chapter, The House of Death Floats By. This is significant because it was something unexpected that the boys had encountered. There's also more going on here than what Twain is telling us.
Jim covers up the dead man with some rags, and they continue to go through the house. As they continued to go through the house, they found many things. There were clothes strewn throughout. They took many of the clothes and put them into their canoe, thinking they might come in handy. Huck took special interest in one of the items.
Wow, would you look at that? I really like this hat.
As they continued to look for stuff, they took many items with them. Some of these items include an old tin lantern, a butcher knife, a lot of candles, a tin cup, a bed quilt, medicine, and a wooden leg with the straps broke off.
And so, take it all around, we made a good haul.
This is significant because despite having encountered a dead man, they still made away with a lot of goods that they can live with.
Now they had to get back to the island. They had floated downstream about a 1/4 mile from the island. It was daylight, so they had to be careful, especially since Jim was there.
Why not cover yourself up with that quilt?
Huck paddled along, and there were no accidents, and nobody saw them. They made it home all safe.
One theme that can be taken away from this chapter is to make the most out of the situations that you're in. First, when Huck and Jim encounter a dead man, what they do, they take all of his possessions. Another instance in this chapter is when the floods came. What they did was they used the floodwaters to explore more of the island. One last instance when this was found in the chapter was when they came across the cave. At first, it was all bare and empty. So what they did, they took their possessions and made the cave look like home. The first literary term that can be applied to this chapter is carpe diem. This means seize the day. Huck and Jim seized the day by exploring the abandoned house and taking as many possessions as they could. The second literary term that can be applied to this chapter is metaphor. A metaphor is a comparison between two unlikely objects that have something in common. This can be shown in the book from the quote on page 48. The rain would thrash along by so thick that the trees off a little ways looked dim and spiderwebby. Twain uses a metaphor to compare the trees to the spiderweb. And that's all for chapter 9.